Hello, this is Friday morning, May 15th, and another video from me, Father Tom, to you. Some of you are still somewhat holed up at home. Others have been going out to do your errands, and starting Monday, I know a lot of other things will be opening up. Universally will be these masks, including in our church. That's why I wore it for this. This is mine. And I kind of chose it to maybe go with my eyes a little bit. My eyes are somewhere between green or blue. I do have a more professional one that I wear, as I did last night on an anointing call. That was not a COVID-19 patient. It was simply a parishioner at a natural end, near the end. And I wore a medical mask. Father John and I both had medical masks. I wouldn't wear that into someone's home or a hospital. It would be more of a medical mask that we have, so we'll talk about that. Now, what I'm bringing you is everything quickly from what I call a task force. The White House has a task force. We have ours, the two priests, Father Nikolai and myself, Deacon Bill Johnson, Deacon Denny Barbero, Peggy Baker, our parish nurse, Gina, as you know, our office manager, Gina Gadini, Gina Shockley, and another parishioner who's been helping us to keep things in order and get straight, but I'm just going to list those sort of office-holding members of the task force. What we're ready for now, on a limited basis anyway, is to welcome you to your worship home. I know that the church is our home for worship, and it's a beautiful church, and I know how much it means to you. And I'm glad to be able to welcome you. There are a lot of conditions and guidelines. You know, it was difficult for me last week when the Archbishop made an announcement carefully, and we began to hear people saying, oh, everything's back to normal. You know there is no normal. And what the Archbishop said clearly is the pastor will decide. Pastor makes decisions based on the guidelines and regulations that each pastor will have to put into effect. We're not winging this. We're making it up parish by parish. So we're going forward from the past 2 months. It's not like we're trying to go back to something. We're going forward from where we've been the past 2 months into a new area. And all the bishops of Missouri are united in every one of these regulations. Outside of Missouri, things may be stricter. I think they might be shortly in Illinois. They're only talking yet about opening churches. That won't be for a while yet. I think these are the most hospitable and yet careful guidelines that any of us would have, and it's all throughout the state of Missouri. Now, for us to rebuild what masses we have and how people come in, there are two dominant factors, overwhelming factors. One is that our sizes of congregations will be small. A lot of people are not ready to come out yet. I get that. In fact, any one or if any one family has anybody that has symptoms, they should all stay home. I don't just mean symptoms of what we know as the COVID, but somebody has a common cold, at this point you have to stay home. And it really should be the whole family at that point. Any frailty, diabetes. I talked to a woman who came to the door this morning who wants to come back to church. She has diabetes and lung problems. It's not good for her to come. She should not come. Any compromised immune system, and you know what that is. Some of you are on certain kinds of medication, even younger. So none who are in very advanced years or have other frailty, like those conditions I mentioned, diabetes, immune system, none really should be coming out to church yet until we're safer from this virus, when there's things like the vaccines or have some other kind of immunity. In fact, the bishops state that anybody over 60 should think seriously and should perhaps be urged to stay home. That's tough. I am over 60. I don't usually say that. But I'm in very, very good health. I know that from the fall. Should I have any problem, I can stay out, and Father Nikolai would do it. But that's what the guideline is. If you're over 60, be careful and judicious. And the reason staying home could still be allowable, if it needs to be, is the obligation to attend Mass is still lifted. That happened back in the middle of March. The Archbishop said there is no canonical church obligation to attend Mass during this period. And we will be live streaming. The Bishop asked us to live stream on the weekend and the weekdays so that you can see Mass in your own church. With all of that, the live live streaming going on and the obligations lifted, we know that a number of people, a lot of our perhaps seniors and others, will choose to stay home. Second big factor, besides that our congregation will be small starting out, is the cleaning obligation. This is what we didn't know Friday, but we knew something was coming. Now we know. The entire church will be wiped and disinfected after every Mass. The entire church, wherever people have been. And we estimate this is going to take about 45 minutes. Now we have a person lined up. I am not at this time asking for volunteers. One dear person in her 80s volunteered. I'm sorry, I can't have you do that. And we need a uniformity of how and with what this is done. So we may be able to get into some other people who would volunteer, but at this time, we're sort of farming it out to a guy in the parish who does work for several parishes. And he will be cleaning the church after each Mass. Because of those small sizes then of the cleaning, and I've checked with other parishes and people are doing remarkably similar things. Here's what we're doing to add to where we've been the past 2 months. We will continue to have the 5 o'clock Saturday night Mass and 10 o'clock Sunday morning. We will add 8 o'clock Sunday morning Mass. 8 o'clock Sunday morning. So the weekend schedule going forward, 5 o'clock Saturday, 10 o'clock Sunday, 8 o'clock Sunday. Cleaning will happen after each of those. In fact, Gina is arranging for the entire church to be bombed, fumigated, before we allow everybody back in. We've had small groups of people. But everything is going to be fumigated before the first Masses we have like this. I'd encourage you, whether it's weekday or Sunday, please don't show up before 15 minutes early because of the cleaning. For instance, our 8 o'clock Mass on Sunday morning, it won't have any music. It will go till approximately 8:45, then we have to clean. Now weekdays, of course we've had good small crowds on weekdays, totaling 40 between 6:30 and 8 o'clock, 8:30 totaling less. We would have to clean after each Mass. So again, lined with what other parishes are doing, we're having one weekday Mass at 8 o'clock. It's in between the 6:30 and the 8. One weekday Mass, that is Monday to Friday. Otherwise, we'd be doing 45 minutes of cleaning after 2 Masses, neither of which take anywhere near 45 minutes. So there would be one weekday Mass at which you're asked to not show up before 7:45. Now with that schedule, we do not anticipate now having a problem with numbers. Deacon Bill has counted up the square footage, how many people we can have by the social distancing. We aren't going to need to count heads as we go in at this point. Down the line, we might add another Mass back in, say on Sunday. We're not going to need that at first. And to keep the cleaning requirements reasonable, we would go ahead and just have that one Mass, and the 2 Sunday morning Masses will suffice. I must say there'll be no open hours anymore. The 9 o'clock hour, the 5 o'clock hour in church, they've been open, but the people that have been coming largely come to the morning Mass, so you'll be able to come to Mass again. If anybody comes in or out of Mass, we'd have to clean again. The side banks of pews, by the way, for weekday Mass will be roped off. I'll get to that in a moment. A lot of pews every other pew will be roped off, but we don't need the entire body of the church for 10 or 12 or 15 people. So you will see when you come in, there'll be ropes on the banks of the pews that are the most kind of sideways, and up and down the whole center of the church will be open. The alcove underneath will not be open for weekday Masses. It will be open for Sunday Masses. That alcove will be roped off for weekday Masses to clean the least area that we need. And then before opening for Saturday afternoon, the entire church will be cleaned. That is that much, I believe. The Adoration Chapel is just too small at this time. We're not able to do that. We could say that 2 or 3 people only would be invited in there. They probably would not be, or just barely be at social distance. There's no air circulation of any measure in there. We'd have to work on that. But besides, Every person who leaves would have to disinfect the entire chapel from start. We cannot have a person in and then leave and have the next person in without cleaning. So it would be cleaning all day long, just unworkable. I know that we want to open that back up again. When changes happen to the treatment of this virus and more protection for people, we will look at that. But you will be able to attend 8 o'clock weekday Mass now on weekdays. Now, when we're starting this, I'm happy to tell you, the Archbishop did say it was up to the discretion of the pastor based on what they could get in place. And we are scrambling, ordering supplies and finding the right people to do all these things. Luckily, my staff, we have a kind of a task force that has come together with the deacons and the priests and Peggy, our parish nurse, and Gina, as I said. And we have come up with Wednesday, May 20th, as the starting date for weekday Mass at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock weekday Mass. So that would start on Wednesday. I'm glad because that's my ordination anniversary. So we would have 8 o'clock Mass Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And that would be in church without music. We really can't have recited prayers or rosaries out loud before Mass. Once again, it's a short time. We have to ask you not to come before 15 minutes. And it'll really be the only quiet environment without other opportunities. So that will be the weekday Masses that will start, and then they'll go Monday through Friday after that, not on Saturday morning, at 8 o'clock, with a quiet entrance no earlier than 7:45. And then we will start, not this weekend, but the 23rd would be the first Saturday evening when Mass is open for attendance, and the 24th, Saturday 5 p.m., and on Sunday, 8 o'clock, a quiet Mass, and 10 o'clock. All those being similar, give us until 7:45 to clean and to be ready, and be ready, as I'll talk about from here on out. Now, the next big thing that I know you know is coming is masks. I wore my mask. The bishops say masks are simply required of anybody in church over the age of 2 years old. If you're over the age of 2, you adjust your mask on as you enter and leave it on till the end. I'll explain pulling it down to receive communion. We're getting used to this. It's like going to Target or Schnucks. If you're going to those places without a mask, you really shouldn't. But at any rate, the bishops have put in bold letters, the use of a mask over the age of 2 is required and is to be enforced without exception. I am the enforcer. I had my ruler before to measure people's distance. It's up to me to enforce. Everyone during Mass entirely will have a mask on. Now, we're not getting into whether someone has a right to not wear a mask. I talked to a policeman yesterday. He said, it's private property. Church is private property. End of story, period. There is no right to break the rules of any private property, and the bishops have set these rules. So the policeman said, I am simply to back them up. Understand, Mass will not begin if there is a person over the age of 2 in the church without a mask on and in place. If a mask becomes taken down during Mass, the Mass will not go on. For Mass to begin or to proceed, each person in church is to have a mask on in place. If you want to exercise your right to not have the mask, go home, watch live stream, or other place outside. This will happen in here. We can see that anyone who will not conform is removed. We will do it if we have to. So what happens if you are coming to church? Here's the procedure. The procedure is take your temperature, everybody. Every child, adults under the age of 2, children, everybody to take your temperature. If anyone has a temperature over 99, the entire group is to stay home. These are the hygienic practices in place by our health officials now. Any temperature over the age of 99, everyone stays home. When you come to church, only use the side doors. The front door will not be unlocked. The door will be propped open. It's again, please don't come before 15 minutes early. Do not touch the door. or the wall or the plate. You won't have to. Walk straight in. The doors will be propped open. We will close them after Mass. The priests or deacons are not to greet you outside after Mass or in the church. We're not to have that kind of warm time that I love. There'll be no talk of coffee and donuts for quite a while. When you come in, you'll see every other pew marked off. That'll be easy. Enter the pew. Your family, of course, can be together. After your family, the next person or family, count the 6 feet. It'll be marked off. Our deacons are doing that by tape. You'll see a 6-foot marker. Simply stay 6 feet away from that next family or person. Masks all through Mass. Now as you approach for communion, the lines will be in the floor as we're familiar with at stores now. Lines that the deacons are making every 6 feet. No double lines. Single line to come to communion. Single line to come to communion. Person by person, 6 foot apart. Lower your mask as you become in front of the minister, who will be one of the priests and deacons at this time. Don't take your mask off when you stand in the pew or going over to wait in line. When you approach the minister is when you pull the mask down, and after you have fed yourself with your hands, there's no communion on the tongue, fed yourself with your own hands, place your mask into place again. There'll be no offertory processions. Collection will not be passed through or by a basket by the usher. There'll be a stationary basket that you would drop your collection money in. No sign of peace, we've been used to that. All the hymnals and missalettes will be removed. We want to introduce music, but it will be music that's familiar to everybody, that we don't need a hymnal for. If you wish to bring your missalette to Mass, that's okay. There'll be no hymnals or missalette. We won't have choirs. There's a terrible story back in early March of an entire choir getting sick. 2/3 of them, 3/4 of them. Because singing puts out a lot of breath. And if there was a choir, they'd have to be 6 foot apart anyway. So we're looking for one cantor, 1 or 2 musicians at a Mass that will conform to these rules. So be patient. 8 o'clock Sunday Mass will not have music, nor will any weekday Mass, no music. And we're working on introducing it back again to Saturday 5 p.m. and Sunday in a safe manner. When you leave your mask on in church. You don't pull your mask off as you get ready to go to the door. I think you see this, but I have to say it. Leave your mask on, be with your family. We don't gather or congregate or talk in church. We can be friendly outside. We don't stop and make gatherings. You take the family or the group that you're with, or you as an individual, with your mask on, and go outside, and then we go from there. The kicker of this is that everything I just said could change, bishops tell us. They don't know what to do right now. They're having a terrible time keeping up with the health evolutions and requirements. Things could get worse. We hope they get better. Should there be a downturn in the health of the practices, these things could differ. I'm just obliged to say that to you. Any of this could change. We hope that Missouri is getting past the point that other places are. We haven't quite yet, of lessening deaths per day or per week and lessening infections. But that is what could happen as time goes forward. That's what we know right now. Now, none of us want to have to take these precautions or to have things look so different as they will in church. But we know why we're doing it. There are times in the history of the world when people have to do things to be safe they never had to do before. Now, back in March, on the weekend that I announced that the Archbishop was lifting the obligation to attend Mass, before Masses were suspended, when I announced that the Archbishop was lifting the obligation, several parishioners came to me and said, "I think they're overreacting." That made me sad. There were cases in Missouri already, but nobody had died. How many deaths is enough? 1, 10, 50? How many deaths do we have to have till it's not overreacting to being careful with each other? Right now, Missouri has had 562 deaths, 2 from our parish. I hope that's enough to make this all worthwhile. There's 10,300 infections have happened in Missouri. We need to take it seriously. In our country, we've had 86,511 deaths. More than that, because many we know are not counted. 1.45 million infections. Again, we know far more than that, but that's the official number. 1.45 million in our country. As a country, we have the most deaths and infections in the world. We're the third most populous country. The other two countries ahead of us in population have 4 times our population. But we have far more deaths and infections than other countries. To be a great country, we take care of each other. We're careful. Even me saying this doesn't matter because the bishops have said this will be observed and this will be observed. But I just want to say it is time now. Nobody's taking anything too far or out of proportion. These measures are not just going to be the next couple of months. People in charge tell us we're in for a good year of the social distancing things. Until a vaccine comes, you know all this, or some other protection against the virus. So this is not just the next few weeks. But we're going forward. We have a path. All who want now and who think that they should, and many would be the best, to stay home, live stream even weekdays from your own parish church. All who can safely come and observe all the guidelines will celebrate that together, and we'll have it available for everyone else to view. I'm very positive about this. We are going forward. There is a way forward. So let's pray for each other. Thank you.